Welcome to Professional Insights with Priya, a series of talks with people who are living their lives as heroes. They are the heroes of their lives, and it is such a pleasure to bring these conversations to you, and I hope you enjoy them as much as I enjoyed listening to them. Nilima Bhat is a leader in the fields of personal mastery, leadership, gender equality, and well-being. Co-author of 2 books, Shakti Leadership and My Cancer Is Me. She is the founder of the global Shakti Fellowship Program for women change makers as well. It is such a pleasure to welcome my dear friend, Nilima Bhat, that I go back with so many years ago from the times when we were young girls, teenagers, looking our gorgeous best, doing lots of fun things together. And we come back from those Navy days, being officers' daughters and having a grand time. And here, look at where we are today. It is such a pleasure to have you here, Nilima. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to see you here.
Great to be with you, Priya. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Wonderful. And in today's call, we're going to be talking about, various things, of course, but the broad topic that we're going to be talking about is how Nilima came about her purpose. I've met so many people, and this is a big question in their mind. Why am I here? What is my why of being in this world? And Nilima is going to share what her why journey was like and where she is today. And with that, let's get straight into it.
You know this, I'm a naval officer's daughter. I think that is a huge part of my identity. I see myself as a Indian citizen before I think of myself as a Oriya daughter or a Marathi daughter, etc. I see myself also as a global citizen because I've lived in many parts of the world. My dad was posted in Germany to build the ship INS Shakti. And so I speak German. And after we got married, my husband and I were posted to Singapore, London, and Hong Kong. So I would call myself a global citizen. And I studied life sciences and biochemistry from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. I was always a very extracurricular and a curricular person. So I enjoyed my studies as much as I enjoyed extracurricular things, especially dance. So as you know, we started SODA, Service Officers Daughters Association, and we performed in so many amazing places and stages, including going to Singapore and Malaysia and Moscow, if you remember, Priya. So that's me.
Yes, some amazing memories going back there, Nilima. And this is what fascinates me that, uh, where you one somehow doesn't even imagine what all can, pan through in our lives, right? When you didn't even think of something like this, that all of this could happen. I mean, you were doing life sciences. Who would think that, here you are talking about Shakti leadership and all of these fancy things like conscious, leadership, etc. So let's get into understanding, what made that pivot? Where did that shift come from, and how did you get to be where you are today?
So I always had a sense of destiny, a sense of purpose for some reason. I felt I have to make a difference in the world. And it's called the entelechy, which I discovered more recently in the Greek language, or it's also called your swadharma, which is what you are uniquely here to be and do and bring to the world. But as all good Indians, it was about working hard and doing very well and being an academic success. And I was fortunate that I seemed to have the brains, and so everyone with brains happens to go to science typically. So then it was like go and do science, and then it's like if be an engineer or a doctor. Back in those days, there were no other choices. So I didn't want to do that. So I said, okay, let me just do life science and biochemistry. At the end of 3 years of life science, I'd met the man I wanted to marry. That's my husband. That was the good that came out of it. But I just knew I did not want to spend my life in a lab doing petri dishes. It's fantastic for the rest of my class. They're all very awarded scientists all over the world. But it wasn't for me. So I went in search of what really makes me tick, and that's communication, media studies, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and mass communication, all levels of communication. It was something huge for me. I realized my whole being wants to create reconciliation among people and among issues through communicating. And so I took up the study of a postgraduate diploma from Sapphire College in social communication, and then graduated to do PR and corporate communications. Had a very successful 10-year career with looked after Copcom's PR for Windsor Manor, which was the ITC hotel in Bangalore. Then looking after Copcoms for Philips All India, the electronics company. And then we moved to Singapore and I looked after corporate communications for ESPN, Star Sports, 25 countries across Asia Pacific. So 10 years into this, I had this huge moment of existential questioning. You know, my career seemed to have gone very far, very quickly. I earned pots of money. I bought a home and I just felt I've ticked all the boxes. I had the, beautiful husband, daughter, son, you know, all the titles I could have ever dreamed of. What typically was called success in in society, I had it. I was 32 and I was underwhelmed. I suddenly had this remembrance that Nilima, you came here to make a difference. You're here to make something better for the world in some way. Are you doing that?
What made you believe that you're here to make a difference?
This was strangely something my mother put into my head. It's one of those funny stories that before I was born, she had had her palm read or something like that, and everything else came true. And then the one thing she had been told was, your younger child is going to travel the world, and it just felt like I had something to do. I had a mission, and it was like a global mission. And so she kind of drilled it into my head all along the way, saying, you have, we're going to see what you're going to be up to, kind of thing. So, and I must say, it never felt like pressure when she would tell that to me. It was almost as if she served as some kind of a mirror to my soul. It was a way of reminding me that you're here for a reason, Nilima.
Wow, that's amazing. Now continue. So you came to a point where you felt that you were here for something else, to make a difference. Then what happened?
And then I realized I was doing a wonderful corporate job, but I didn't see myself having impact. And by that, I meant impact beyond earning my own paycheck. So, or, just creating a better brand for my organization, etc. I mean, I knew I wanted to have social impact. I wanted to have a cultural impact. I didn't even have the words back then. I just knew that, I have to leave the world a better place. And as they say, to whom much is given, of them much is expected. And I just knew that a lot had been given to me. I'd had a fairly effortless life succeeding, and I just had a sense of responsibility about that it wasn't just a joyride for me, that I happen to have a skill set, whether it is how I communicate or my ability to understand concepts and look at the big picture and synthesize and create and innovate. I had these capacities. I just knew that they're supposed to serve a purpose beyond myself. So that was it. And I gave up full-time corporate life in order to take up the study of yoga and Vedanta, to say, who am I, to understand who am I, why am I here, go in search of those deeper answers. By this time, we had moved from Singapore to London, and I became I took up the Shivananda yoga as a practice. I found Vedanta. 2 years into that, my husband Vijay was a very successful international advertising man with Ogilvy and Mather. He got diagnosed at 40 with colon cancer when the children were only 11 and 8 years old. And so after that, we did move to Singapore, to Hong Kong for a couple of years, but his health was not able to cope with this very, very stressful expat kind of job. So we returned to India and took up setting up a leadership consultancy called Roots and Wings. So I'm smiling at the logo behind you because that's a very similar looking logo of the tree, and the roots, that we can gift our future generations the gift of roots, which is knowing who you are and where you're coming from, and wings, knowing how to really fly and connect with the whole world. So we set up this leadership consultancy. We started applying everything that we were learning to teach others. So I created a very comprehensive integrative medicine program to heal through cancer. From everything that we were learning for Vijay's recovery, we had just devoured books, with qualified in all kinds of integrative medicine, holistic health, personal growth, tools and techniques and modalities, family constellation therapy, Enneagram. Vijay did Vipassana. I qualified as a yoga teacher. So I just knew I need to put all this together with this. I thought maybe my mission is to change medicine, because from the inside, having experienced how difficult it was to come through something like cancer, I just knew that all these different medical systems must learn to talk to each other. They're all operating in their silos, and they're missing a tremendous opportunity to do best practice sharing so that the client can benefit from an integrated approach. They were also missing a holistic approach, understanding that disease isn't just a by chance, that your immune system gets compromised with emotional and mental stress. So unless you know how to handle your emotional and mental stress, you do not have resilience, endurance, and immunity. And so you are at risk of falling sick. So I brought everything I knew, which is my life science and biochemistry, my yoga, my interest in communication, interpersonal, intrapersonal communication, pulled it all together and created a integrative medicine clinical program to help cancer patients called Sampurna, and then wrote about it in our first book, My Cancer Is Me. So that was, I just love synthesizing best practices, wisdom, wellness traditions from around the world after studying them experientially, right? So that was the first book. And then 2 years, 3 years into that, I just knew I needed to write the second book, which was my journey of coming into my own as a woman, because the cancer journey was very much the journey of a caregiver to her husband, who happened to bring her academic skill sets and understanding of different subjects together. But in the process, the woman in me had also gone through a tremendous journey, which I could look back on and plot and map as a woman's journey, as an Indian woman's journey, as a conscious woman leader's journey. And I realized the world needs a leadership model that works for both men and women, that draws from the East and the West. And so I put it together. I asked this amazing friend and colleague, Professor Raj Sisodia, who is the co-founder of the Conscious Capitalism movement. So I said, Raj, let's write this book because we are looking to make business more conscious. I remember my feeling empty and purposeless with my own experience, and thinking, how can we bring purpose and values, and how can we bring that to the world, or to the world of business? So that's what the conscious capitalism movement is about. How do you make business a force for good? How do you elevate humanity through business? So the four tenets of conscious capitalism are conscious leadership, conscious cultures, higher purpose, and stakeholder integration. So we needed to begin with conscious leadership. And I said to Raj, let's write a book that works for all, a leadership model that works for all. So that's how Shakti Leadership came to be.
My God, what a journey. So fascinating to listen to all of these details. And just to be able to sort of, what I'm finding as a perfect link in all of this, Nilima, is the fact that you were able to adapt into whatever was happening. And there was a sort of a sensory perception of, okay, what can I do with this? This is a strength I have. This is what's happening right now. What can I do? How best can I arrive? I'm hearing there's been consciously a very strong presence in your life, of your presence, of your beingness. What do you say to that?
Yes, so as you know, the Shakti leadership model talks about the 5 elements of Shakti leadership, and the master key, the first element, is presence. How do we cultivate presence? And from that place of presence, you find a power that is innate to you, It's not because of the privilege and the money you have and the fame you have, which is an external construct, but it's an innate sense of self and self-worth and personal value that you know you have. And that is your power. That is your Shakti. So that is the second element of Shakti leadership. And then from your presence and the power that comes from presence, the true power, you are able to do win-win and power with relationships with the rest of your life, because you're not coming from a I'm not okay, you're okay kind of place, or the other way around, right? So then we become psychologically whole. We become the wise fool of tough love. You find your inner parent, you find your inner child, you find your inner man, you find your inner woman. You put yourself together, you learn how to be flexible, which is from that presence, know what each moment requires, and then play to one of those four selves, play with one of those four selves. And then we talk about purpose, which is knowing who you essentially are is who you have to bring to the world. That is your purpose. You know, your purpose is to be who you are and manifest it in the world as the gift, the unique gift that you have to bring. And then we put a circle of the hero's journey around it. So recognizing from the work of Campbell and Maureen Murdoch that, you know, we are each the heroes and heroines of our own life story. And it's like carpe diem, you know, like what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. So when a crisis comes, it doesn't come to knock you down and cancel you. It comes to test you, to challenge you. So actually, every time challenges have happened in my life on the trot quite regularly, I've kind of used it to get more present. I go into the zone deep within myself. I find deep wells and well springs of strength and resilience. My faith in the divine is very strong, right? I find that, I call upon that, and then I look at the crisis as a challenge that's here to grow me in some way, that's here to somehow make me and my life and my tribe and my family, my community, my work better in some way. Because I deeply believe life is not here to just give us suffering. I truly believe life wants us to grow and be more of who we can be, and that these challenges that do come on the trot regularly are here to keep evolving and growing us. So I guess my faith, my sense of my trust that every time I've gone within and stayed present to each situation instead of getting caught up in my stress, has always brought me the right results. And maybe it is the years and years of yoga and dance, sadhana. So I truly believe, Priya, that we talk about presence, we teach presence, we're busy, you know, it's become a big buzzword these days. But like all good things, it requires practice. And those of us who have done any kind of body work, any sport, any art that connects us with our, inner core, that inspires us to rise beyond ourselves. Only those of us who put in that kind of, yoga, when you know how your breath moves through your body, right? You know what it feels to have a clear and calm mind, right? It's these practices that give you a taste of presence, so that when in leadership you're being told be present, you know what that is because you've been there.
Wow, this is sounding so amazing. uh, I'm getting the chill as you say this, because the more, this has been something that even I personally have been working on, how to build presence and how to stay present in every situation, however trying it may be, and however challenging it may be, like you say. And it is a tough one. And, it's like saying that, how can I get back into, that congruency that, what can I, what is my need in this moment, which part of me is required here. And somehow it's very difficult to achieve. So can you talk a little bit about that what's your way, and what's something that people can employ?
So Vijay and I created something called the presence practice that we teach. And this is coming from our years of study of different meditation systems, different centering practices. We've put it together to make it very non-denominational and possible for everyone to do. And it takes all of 10 minutes. But it's perhaps anchored in the wisdom of the Enneagram. And it's a realization that when we are not present, we tend to run to one of three places. We either go into our gut and we get into fight, flight, right? Survival mode. Or we go in, so we get defensive. Or we go into our heart and we feel unloved and not validated. So we start becoming pleasers and we become self-promoting, right? So we have something to promote. And right there, we lose our power and presence. Or we run into our head and we start worrying about the future or guilt tripping about the past. I should or shouldn't have, should have, shouldn't have, all that. And so we are no longer in the present because we're either in the past or in the future. So we get into fear. So when we do the presence practice, we get people through their body, through a relaxed body, we get them to get an even breath, we get them to a crystal clear and calm mind. And then we have this statement that says, stand in your spine as you move through your open heart and you affirm, I have nothing to defend. I have nothing to promote. I have nothing to fear. I am here now and all I need is within me. All I need comes to me because I'm part of this intelligent cosmic, soup of energy that is the just-in-time universe. All I need to do is align with its flow rather than be disconnected from it. So when I'm present, I'm aligned to a greater flow of intelligence that somehow synchronicities then start happening rapidly around you. Because we are part of a grander intelligent system. We lose connection with it. We become absent to it. So presence brings us back. And so it says, all I need is within me, all I need comes to me, and all I need flows through me. And then I've added 3 more recent affirmations from the realization that we also get stuck when we forget our innate abundance and we get into our sense of not being enough, right? So you say, I am enough, I have enough, and there is enough for all. So this then corrects any sense of jealousy or poverty consciousness, that somehow there isn't enough to go around, so how do I greed and grab, So these are very, very carefully chosen statements. They're called affirmations. And so all this is put together as a 10-minute practice involving the body, the breath, the mind, the heart, the senses, and these statements. It's super powerful. So I'm happy to share that with our listeners afterwards.
Wonderful. So I would like you to share the link and I'll put it down in the chat, in the description below. All of this is sounding wonderful. And I got that piece where you said that this whole cosmic energy that flows between all of us, right? You, me, that all the sentient beings. So, what comes to me very often is that, there's so much of suffering in this world, right? There's so many people who go through so much. And there's yet so many people who, are, seemingly very abundant and have a lot and happy souls, etc. And I'm trying to, sort of connect the dots and, what is it that makes this person be this way and this person be this way? Yeah? And the happy people not necessarily are really, very abundant or something. They're just generally happy in life. They don't pay too much attention to anything. So it just makes me think, as kids, as babies, we born as these gurgling babies, so joyful, people are showering all this love and care and attention upon us. And there's just so much of trust, so much of the sense that I will ask and I will receive. And, I want love, I'll get lots and lots of hugs and kisses. I want food, it'll be cared for. I want to go buy this toy, I will get it. So all of this I demand and it happens. And literally somehow along the way, because of all the impressions we make, from all that has said to us, we hear, we see, we watch, and is told to us, we suddenly have this cloud that forms, or these impressions that form, and we develop these shadows that we go within, and we seemingly start having these limiting beliefs that this is not me, I can't do this. How does your work help people come through that, or recognize that, acknowledge it, and build from it?
Yeah, actually, in that very simple 5-element model, it's all there. And I teach the 9-month fellowship program. We're going to teach this as a Udemy course. There are many, many ways in which this is done, but essentially it all begins with remembering and cultivating presence. right? So uh, everything you described that gets us into suffering is the ego consciousness, the limited self. The limited self is what gets the limiting beliefs, right? So how do we unhook from our limited self, our limiting beliefs? And in order to do that, we step back and we have to learn to be more present and see reality in its fullness. So one of the things we also teach is called the inclusive I, right? We have a sense of I, but it starts out getting very contracted. Yeah, the self.
I, as in the ahem, the me.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So
Carry on.
we
Yeah.
start with this very contracted sense of self, I. And then as we evolve and as we grow, we are invited to start expanding that I from being a more inclusive I, that it's not just me and mine and my family, and it's not just my tribe and us and them, but it's also look through the lens of science, what we call the it consciousness, that everything also has the same underlying thing. Then you go to the we consciousness, which is realizing that everyone is unique and different, all cultures are unique and different, and yet they have to learn to interweave together. And then finally you come to what's called the integral I, the unity consciousness, that everything is actually just one thing that is morphing and becoming, transmuting into many, many different things. So going from the very contracted I, which the exclusive I, to becoming the inclusive I that knows how to hold the whole and see that, I'm just another you, but I am here to be me. And we each have chosen these rides, right? What if all that happens to us is not an accident? What if all that's happening to us is a deeply intelligent design that we have also chosen to be a part of? And so then what is happening isn't here to, destroy me. It is here to, as I said, it is here to grow me. And each one of us has chosen a unique ride. So we get to choose whether we are going to make our hero's journey consciously, which is, ride the waves and take on the challenge, or we are going to be forced awake through all kinds of pain and suffering and crisis, But one way or the other, awakening is a must. Awakening and becoming self-aware is what the game is about. Waking up to the drama of everything and seeing that it's what they call in yoga, lila. It's a game, we're here to play.
The Ras
Uh,
Leela of life, right? They
yes.
say like some life happens and suddenly you realize, oh, why it's happening. You suddenly make reason of all the madness. Yeah.
I must add one more thing here. This is my wonderful friend Nitya Shanti, who was a Buddhist monk for many years after being a XLRI MBA. And he teaches this lovely thing. He says, you know what? Life is essentially meaningless. It happens. But we get to choose what meaning we make from it. So if you tell a high quality story, you will have a high quality experience.
Hmm.
But if you tell a poor quality story about what happened, you will have a poor quality experience. Life happens to the best of us, to all of us. You know, we go through pain, we go through suffering, we go through all kinds of loss of loved ones and health and of money. I mean, no one comes without their little cross to bear, little or big cross to bear. I'm mixing all my metaphors here because I love drawing from the wisdom of all different traditions.
Yeah, in
So
fact,
there's
this cross to bear piece is something that came to me years ago when I was very young and I was, trying to get into a meeting and I was talking to this senior lady. She was a secretary of one of the managing directors of one of the largest, Indian companies. And this lady told me this analogy or metaphor of how each of us, whoever it be, if Jesus had this, this whole thing of carrying the cross, being the Son of God, he could have averted that, but he chose to carry it to show the world that every one of us has a cross to bear, whether it is small or large, and however rich you may be, there is something that you're battling and challenging with, and how can you be present to that is what life is all about.
and therefore, since we are with the Christian wisdom, um, this is a very famous line, that the will of God will not take you,
Yeah.
where the grace of God will not keep you.
Wow. Nice one.
And I like to build on that with my Shakti work and understanding the feminine goddess principle, that the will of God will not take you where the grace of goddess will not keep you, right? Will is that masculine energy and grace is that feminine energy. And it's the dance of the two, which is like our divine father and our divine mother that we're all children of. Whether you're a believer or a non-believer of any faith, just to know that there is your own innate higher intelligence that has a healthy masculine element and a healthy feminine element. It is the will. You have been given the capacity to act on will and to intend and to move forward, have that strength and resilience, exercise your will. But we also have that higher force in us, which is that feminine ability to surrender to the greater flow of things and to receive help um, from the greater flow of things and people around us. So will and grace are these wonderful capacities we all can cultivate and access.
Lovely. And yet, as we say this, this whole thing of women's grace and women's abilities to surrender and adjust and adapt, um, do you feel that over time it's sort of been taken for granted and there's been this displacement, this loss of place in society? Not in the sense of, that, yes, you and I think that, women are great and they're equal and they're, fantastic and they've got these powerhouses of energy and their ability to do so much and bring so much to the world. But there is a marginal section of society of, in all parts of the world who do not give that place to women. And what do you say to that? And what do you think can be done to correct that?
So there is a duality to all things. The masculine and feminine exists in all things, not exclusive to any gender,
Hmm.
right? So the yin and the yang, the men, women, gender fluid, non-binary, all of us, however we identify,
Yeah.
uh, have a masculine and a feminine element in us. So therefore in yoga, it's called the Ardha Narishwar, that
Right.
each one of us is equal parts masculine and equal parts feminine, right? There is a purpose to this because the two together create like between a North Pole and a South Pole, a magnetic field gets created so
Yeah.
that when you put a wire through it, current gets generated. So polarity has a purpose in this creation. It is the two that create the field through which energy can be unlocked for use in the system, correct? Now, if everything comes in pairs, it is our unconscious nature that tends to create a hierarchy between them.
Hmm.
One in that pair is given a higher power, and the other, so it's made the dominant, and the one in the lower power is then made subordinate to that.
Hmm.
That right there is where the problems begin. So the problem isn't the duality. In fact, it is a necessary thing, as
Right.
I explained. We have to learn to co-hold and value and respect equally. It's like saying, I mean, if we don't, it's so stupid. It's like saying the polarity of inhale and exhale. That, oh, exhaling is more important than inhaling. Correct? It's so stupid, but human nature, because we haven't awakened to our fullness and our full knowing, we tend to come from the scarcity consciousness and therefore create a power over dynamic of a dominant and a subordinate. And everyone who goes subordinate then loses their privilege over the others. So because women are physically weaker, it's the masculine are using the power, the male are using the power to dominate that which is physically weaker. But it's not true just for men and women. The colonizer over the colonized, the owners over the slaves, right? White people over colored people, rich people over poor people. So all of society and tends to get into polarities.
Hmm.
And the problem arises when one of them is claiming more power over the other.
Hmm.
Right there is the problem. The polarity is not the problem. Polarity is needed for diversity, right? So the answer, and that's what that the book Shakti Leadership is about: embracing feminine and masculine power in business. It
Right.
is the it is the looking down on the feminine principle, denying it, suppressing it, that even the women have had to become more masculinized in order to fight and compete in the marketplace, etc. Right? And so as a result, our workplaces have lost the feminine energy. So workplaces have become places that burn us out because we are so stressed. It's all hyper competitive. There is no caring and sharing. There is no tending to relationship. Everyone's focused only on the task.
Hmm.
So we are facing attrition and burnout and disengagement. All these unconscious bias or psychological safety, all these are signs of the lost feminine principle in our culture.
Hmm.
And so we have no choice but to awaken to these things and diagnose the problem between the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, and then see what is missing and dial that up. See what is too much and dial that down. That is the answer. In fact, my whole book is about this, Priya. The
I am
solution.
aware. I am aware. It's a wonderful book and definitely well recommended. What are you sensing that you'd like to share as a message with this world?
Given the Hathras rape that has just happened, the misogyny that is there in the world and in our country has become extremely critical now. And all of us, men, women, we all have to take responsibility for awakening to the feminine principle, to respecting the feminine principle, to embracing and protecting the feminine principle. That includes protecting the women, but recognizing, respecting, rewarding, embracing, including the feminine principle. The capacity to care, to share, to collaborate, to nurture, to have empathy, to be able to be
Yeah.
vulnerable, to be able to include each other. Right? This is what women have done in society, right? And what men have done in society is to go and hunt and protect, and that's fantastic. But when what should have been equal became unequal, the inequality of that is where the problem begins. And social dominance theory shows that the dominant group starts seeing the subordinate group as almost inanimate. They start seeing them as resources. They become invisible. They're not like they're human and have feelings anymore. Right there, when the feminine principle is not seen as something that is a living, breathing thing, but is just
And of
seen as
value.
something
And of value.
and of value,
Mhm.
but of a living value, that it has sovereignty over itself, that the
Absolutely.
value isn't for some masculine element to now claim and harness and exploit and mine for their personal gain. The value is there. In fact, it's tremendously valuable. That
Yeah.
is why everyone fights for it, everyone rapes for it. It's like it's actually incredibly valuable. But what we have forgotten is that it's not just an inanimate resource, it is a living thing. The feminine principle is a sovereign element and energy in all of us, and it's not just to be taken just because you find it there. A woman walking in a field is not just to be taken and raped and killed. Here's a human being, and in a way she is a temple because she carries that living presence of the feminine, right? So I actually think
Yeah.
you say the measure of a society is how it treats its women, and this is something so archetypal. We are paying the price of a runaway patriarchy, which has overvalued men and the masculine over women and the feminine. And we have no choice, but all of us have to wake up to the power and the sanctity of the feminine principle. We have to learn to value it and respect it and awaken it in ourselves and to share it with each other. uh, we have to bring the mother back. We have to know we are nothing without the mother, the source from which we came.
That was lovely, Nilima.
Thank you, Priya.
I'm so overwhelmed with this last piece and also all of what you've done in your life. It's so inspiring to see your growth, to see the way you have, I would say, blossomed, and not only just for yourself and your family, like you say, but for the whole, for the whole. You are truly living that, the I that is inclusive, and that I that's willing to embrace the world and, share your wisdom with them. I believe every one of us, we are the heroes of our life, right? As children, we start off as that and we somehow lose our track, during, as adulthood happens. And yet we come back. There's this opportunity to come back. You have done it. I want you to share, how do you today in present time, Nilima Bhat, live, and how do you be the hero of your life?
There's always something new that I am living with and practicing and learning those muscles for, and honing and getting to expertise. So currently what I'm with is this thing that my primary purpose is to love life.
Uh-huh.
My primary dharma is to life. It's not so much to, am I getting the love I need or want, or if I can love life as the ultimate beloved, then everything else will fall into place. Uh, so one thing is to just, no matter what, love life, give yourself fully to it. Step both feet into the river of your life. Don't be with one foot in and one foot still on, on the bank saying, should I go in or not? Give yourself to life fully, embrace it, love it 100%. And when you can love life fully, then just make yourself happy no matter what. So otherwise, I've noticed that my feelings are going up and down through the day. I hear some good news, I feel happy. I hear some bad news, I feel sad. Someone says something nice, I feel happy. Someone says something bad, I feel sad. And I frankly just got tired of the roller coaster of emotions. And then I realized I'm just going to unhook my happiness from what happens outside.
Mm.
And I'm going to now hitch the bandwagon of my happiness onto my inner state of self, my presence, my flow, life itself. Since I love life, I'm just going to be happy no matter what, because whatever is happening is life happening. The cause of my happiness is going to be greater than anything that can happen on the outside. So that's what I'm practicing right now.
Amazing, Nilima. Thank you so much. This has been so, so powerful. And I'm feeling so happy to have, got you onto the show, and just sharing this whole experience has been so wonderful. Not only your journey, but, how you're approaching life. And this is going to be so meaningful to so many people who listen in.
Lots of love.
Thank you so much for staying to the end and watching this conversation with me. It's been a pleasure putting it together. And if it was meaningful to you, and if you liked it, do hit the like button. And if you can, do share. And of course, do subscribe. Until next time, stay happy and in love. And God bless.